Hello, guys. Good evening. Evening, everyone. Can everyone hear me? All right. You're all welcome to today's section. Um, while we wait for the facilitator to join us, I would like us to start with our takeaway from the previous class. Who would like to go first? Mr. William, can you hear me? Mr. Daniel, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, but it's running here seriously. I don't know whether my voice is audible.
Oh yes, your voice is fine. You can tell us your key takeaway from the last class and how it has helped and improved you in your various tasks or facility.
I don't know if my voice is audible enough.
Yeah, you're audible enough, sir. You can go ahead.
Okay, last class was on business skills presentation, and we were made to understand that business case is a business report that align the problems and prepare solutions to a problem. We're also made to know some of the things that can support our case. And we also are made to understand that we can identify our supporters and saboteurs. Having a visibility of supporters and saboteurs will help us to know how to manage them. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, sir. I would like more take home. I would like more students to give their take home. Any other person? Mr. Festus, would you like to say something? Let's have your take home from the last class, please. Mr. Daniel Ja, you're welcome. Would you like to give your take home from the last class? How the previous course has helped you in your facility?
Hello, good evening, everyone.
Yeah, good evening, sir.
Okay, yes, last class was quite impactful. I learned a lot. Mostly, we were taught that when we want to present our business case, we should focus more on the financial figure of what our management would gain or lose when they attempt or refuse to attempt our case. So that's my take home from the last class. I think I answered your question, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
I'll be taking more take home. Key takeaways from the last class, please. Miss Chipper.
Good evening.
Miss Chiba, would you like to say something?
Not at the moment, thank you.
All right, all right. Okay, I can see Madam Rita here. Would you like to give your take home from the last class, please?
Good evening. Nothing from me, please. Thank you.
Okay, ma'am. All right. You're welcome. Mr. Rilwan, I've not heard from you. Please say something. Rilwan, are you there? Right, we'll just wait for a few minutes while the facilitator joins and today's lecture will get started. Ms. Caroline, would you like to give your take home from the previous class? Let's hear from you, please. Mr. David Thomas, you're welcome. Mr. David, can we have your take home from the last class, please?
Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
Hello.
Is this who is speaking,
Hello.
please?
Hello,
Miss
good
Caroline,
evening.
is this you? Yeah, we can hear you.
Hello.
We can hear you.
Please, what's going on? Am I still on?
Yes, please. I think we're waiting for the facilitator to join the link. So please, let's be a bit patient. Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Ovu. Can you hear me? Are you there, sir?
Can you hear me? Please confirm that.
Yes, we can hear you.
We can hear you,
You're
sir.
welcome.
We can hear you, sir.
Hello?
We can hear you, sir.
Okay. You can see.
Human resources management.
Hello, hello.
Hello, sir.
Hello. Hello, hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, we can hear you. I guess your network
Please,
is a bit bad.
I need to be sure that you can. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can see you.
Yes, we can see your screen, sir.
Sir, then that means you can hear me as well. I'm really sorry that I came in 20 minutes or tried to come ahead. That I was going to come in 20 minutes late. I mean, even at that, I kept you guys waiting. I'm sorry about that. So please don't be upset with my coming late. So today we're going to be looking Okay, please confirm if you hear me clearly now.
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
Is it better now?
Some elections.
Okay.
It's very clear now.
Okay, all right. As in, you can see my slide as well. All right, so good evening. We're going to be, our course for today is human resource management. So we want to look at managing staff, or better still, managing people as facility managers. You might want to wonder that you are a facility manager. Why are you taking a course on human resource management or human resource in facility management? Recall in our last class, I mentioned that as facility managers, we actually have the potential to be senior managers, because facility management field is multidisciplinary and it exposes you to almost all the core functional areas in business. So as facility managers, we're not just managing assets, we're not just managing facilities, we're managing people as well. And because we're managing people, it is very important that we understand what people management is. In terms of managing our staff, it's also very important that we understand what people management is in terms of managing our clients, because they're people. But this course focuses on managing our staff, because when you manage facility, you use people to manage those facility. So in order to effectively and efficiently manage that facility well, you need to be able to manage people, meaning that you need to understand what human resource is, or what talent management is, right? So when we look at human resource in itself, what exactly are we talking about? What is human resource? I believe we all, understand what that really is, but let's kick off the conversation from there. So I'd like for someone to volunteer to tell us what he or she thinks that human resource is, or human resource management is. Please, can one person volunteer, please? Let's just get your thoughts so that we can move quickly. Hello? Hello? Can anybody volunteer, please?
Hey, good evening. Let me try. I'm driving, so I'm just trying to be very careful on this road safety, guys. Okay,
All
so
right. Okay, thank you very much. Please try.
My understanding of human resource management is, because humans are for me, my opinion, is the most vital asset we have in any organization. Management of this resource, the human resource, the people, in helping them coordinating them, helping them in the delivery of their task with human resources. Hello? Did anybody hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
I can hear you. I can hear you.
I think, is the facilitator still on?
I'm here with you. I can hear
Okay,
you.
yeah.
Go on, please.
So did you? No, I'm done. I said that's what I believe human resource management is about. Or should I take it all over again?
Right. No, you don't have to. I heard you. What you said is
thank you.
that people are the most vital resource in an organization, and that human resource is basically about managing these people or about overseeing these people. So, Mr. Didion, you go on, take it, and then after you, Mr. Lewis will take the final one, and then we'll move forward. Didion, are you still available?
Yeah.
All right, go on.
Yes, I'm here. So I see human resources as the practice of managing an organization's employee by focusing on their role as valuable assets known as capital. They are the capital of the organization. All right. Human resources encompasses a broad range of activities, including like recruiting, hiring, training, compensating, motivation. What else? Returning and others. You understand? So yes, that's basically what I as human resources.
Thank you, Didion. Hello, yeah, go on, Louis.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Hello?
Yes, good evening.
Well, it has been said, but I just want to add a little. It is a strategic and comprehensive approach.
Louisa.
Hello, can you hear me?
Louisa.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you, sir. We can hear you. Go on.
Okay. I said it's a comprehensive and strategic approach to managing an organization's employees.
Okay. Thank you, Louis. Obaro, please go on. Just make it very quick so that we can move from that.
Okay. Good evening, everybody.
Yes, good evening.
Human resource management, I see it as a discipline of recruiting and maintaining personnel in order to achieve set goals of an organization. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You know, like everybody have said, you know, basically we've poured out the key element when it comes to human resource management. Basically, you're looking at, you know, managing people for achieving the objective of the organization. And when you talk about managing people, it encompasses from beginning to the end. And when we say from beginning to the end, basically we are saying from the point at which you decide to hire, not just when you hire, from the point at which you decide to hire, because you have to make conscious effort, planning, and execution to be able to do all of those things right. So human resource management, it's about managing people, you know, for the aim of achieving the overall objective of the organization. And it encompasses the entire process of managing people from the point where you decide to hire to the point where, you know, that employee exits the organization, right? But when we talk about, you know, human resource, right, we've already identified that it is that process of managing people within an organization. But what does managing people really entails in terms of practice or in terms of, you know, practicability? how does this apply? What exactly are we talking about? Like I already said, it starts from the beginning. And the beginning is not just at the point where you hire. It is at the point where you decide to hire. Now, what is most important is that you hire right, because that's where the process, begin. If the practice at which you are hiring is not well thought out, and something that you take time to plan and execute, you end up getting it wrong. In facility management especially, it is very important that you hire right. It's very important that you hire the right FM for the right FM job, right? Because when you bring in a project or you get a project, the execution of that project really depends on the capability and experience of whoever you put to manage that project. Facility managers are the pioneers or the chief executive officer of every project that you assign to them. So first thing first, hiring the facility manager right, is very important. And beyond the facility manager, every other role that you need to fill within that project, it's also very important that you get it right. But how do you get it right? Now, my emphasis is on facility manager because we are facility manager, but let's step out of our profession for a bit. Whatever you are doing, as long as you're hiring right is critical, because if you don't hire the right person for the job that you want to hire for, you are going to take that organization a step or two steps backward. Why? How? Because that person you've hired will not be able to deliver as the organization expect or want that person to deliver. And you have reduced client satisfaction for that period. You probably may have even lost money. And when that employee eventually leaves, you start from the beginning, to start to hire again. And that costs money, right? So when you look at you look at everything, it is very important that from the very beginning, you hire right, whether for facility management or for any other profession. But how do you even hire right? What are the things that you need to do? What is the process that you need to follow to be able to, hire right? Now, when you want to hire, of course, it starts from where there is a need for an employee to be hired. What could result to those needs? How does that happen? Sometimes there's expansion in the business. For facility management, it is mostly as a result of a new project. Once a new project comes in, there's need to bring in new set of staffs for that project. Sometimes even at the head office, there are vacancies, or there's sort of expansion, or there's a reorganization of the organization where they're sort of restructuring the organization, and you have to hire for certain positions that have been seen to be ideal, for the business. So at that point, there is need for hire. In large organizations, there's process. If there's a need for hire, for a new project, for instance, typically the business development or marketing or sales or whatever department, they bring the project in. And at that point, maybe they are spearheading or project managing the mobilization and onboarding of that project. So when it is that case, there is a request to the HRO department. For big organizations where they have the resources to have HRO team, but not all organizations can afford that. Some don't have that. So at that point, you can have a situation where one person fills many shoes, and it falls back to even the operations manager or even the BD to start to run all of those through. But the most important point here is that it has to be gotten right. And the way to get it right is that from the very beginning, you identify exactly what you are looking for. What exactly are you looking for? Now, before you can be able to identify what you are looking for, you need to first of all look at what is the person going to be doing. Let's assume that it's a facility management organization and a new project has just been brought in, right? And you've seen a need for a new set of employees to be hired for that project. So there's a need. Now, the next thing that you have to look at is, what are they going to be doing? What exactly are they going to be doing? What role are you going to be filling? It's a new project. You need, maybe it's a large project, you need a lead facility manager for that project. You need a technical facility manager for that project. You also need a facility manager to oversee soft services, right? So you, at that point, you're already identifying the people that you need. I'm sure if it's a facility management project, like I'm explaining it really, you would have even, at the point where proposals are done, negotiations done, all of these have been identified already. And it is very clear. It's just about, turning up your documents and communicating properly. So you know the roles that you are filling. Then you identify what exactly are they going to be doing. The lead facility manager is going to be doing this. The technical facility manager is going to be doing this, and this should be documented, right? So you list out what they would do on a daily basis, monthly, and what they're delivering, the KPIs are. Same thing for every role that you are filling. Then you also identify what are they going to be working with? What kind of tools are they going to be working with? They're going to be working with a laptop, or these roles are going to be working with a computer. They will be working with so software. They'll be working with so devices, right? So once you are able to also list all this out, that then tell you what is the skill that you need from each of these people. If they are going to be using, if the technical manager is going to be using a laptop, you definitely know that you are not just looking for somebody that is technical. You are looking for somebody that knows how to use a computer, very technical, and knows how to use a computer. You are looking for somebody that is very technical, knows how to use a computer, and understand Excel very well. So this helps you build a list of, the skills that you are looking out for in the employees that you're going to be hiring. So all of this information that you have documented automatically forms the basis of which your JD is developed, your job post is also developed, right? Your task notification is developed. This information helps, it just gives you a good overview of what the person will be doing, what you expect the person to should know how to do, and every requirement that you need will be clearly listed there. So that is how you really start right from the very beginning. And once all this is done and you put out your publication, right? And of course, people apply and then you shortlist. So, and when you are shortlisting, it is always good that, you review very well. Sometimes, these days we try to filter very quickly and as easy as possible, where you don't have to stress yourself doing all of this. Some people would even do sort of, do the application such that there are keywords, and if applicant CV or information does not tally with those keywords, it automatically throws it away. For me, I'd say it's good to be, try to be as open as possible, so that you have a feel of very qualified people, and you have the opportunity to actually see what they have and what they can bring, to the table. So it is very important that we hire right, and we prepare, very rightly. Now, when you look further to say, okay, this is what you're looking for a facility management recruitment, you definitely have to look at what, the role of facility managers are. And even in larger cases where you're not just hiring, a facility manager, right? You're hiring for other roles. And maybe you're hiring for a site, and then the facility manager at that site have to play a key role in that entire process that you are executing. So it is very important that that is considered, and they are brought into the picture, to effectively get the right people for the job. But aside from hiring, right, facility managers have a very important role that they play in every workplace. We support the organization, we support occupants in residential estates, we support occupants. So when you're hiring, you have to look beyond just the qualifications. You also have to look at the role that we play as facility manager and how should that transcend to the skill and personality that we bring to the table, because you know that people that do not understand how to manage people or do not understand the importance of managing facilities that will make people comfortable, make people safe, definitely will not be able to deliver on how you expect them to deliver. So it is very important that you open your mind to a host of qualities, requirements that you expect to get from the employee that you eventually, the applicants that you eventually choose to hire. Now, let's look further at hiring practice that helps you pick the best talent for whatever role that you want to fill. So you look at, credible pool of resources where you can get a lot of CV. And I already highlighted that it's good that even when you're featuring, you try to limit that featuring so that it doesn't eventually filter out people that are even more qualified and good for the job. Because sometimes these days, people understand that this is what is being done. So they look at your job post very well, and then they identify the keywords. Even when they are not qualified for the role, they're able to put those keywords there, and you eventually end up interviewing them. Sometimes you realize that they are not fit for the role, and you probably would have wasted time for carrying out that interview. But more importantly, you have to learn how to filter. And it is not just featuring CV that is the best way to filter. Sometimes you can have sort of like a questionnaire sent out, to help you assess all of those people that have sent CV, and then you pick out the best, or people that their response are relevant to what exactly you need. So it's very important that you plan the interview process very well. That's also very critical, because sometimes people just think that interview is what you step into and do what you want to do and come out. You have to prepare well, and there are several things that you have to note down and put in your mind. And what are those things? First of all, you have to take the time to prepare, especially for the interview exercise. Prepare very well. Have your questions written down you want to see, so that you are also able to be open-ended for people that you are talking to be able to respond very well. Make the interviewee comfortable from the very beginning. You have to make maybe because they don't the sweetness out of the entire process. Ask interview questions about their past performance. Can you hear me, please? Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, sir.
Yes, we can hear you for now.
Okay, sorry. So sorry about that, please. I don't know, my internet is not very good today. I actually called my provider earlier today to come and work on it. They even changed my router today. I'm surprised that I got in is almost the same thing as yesterday. But because I came in not too long ago, I couldn't start calling them to come again to start looking at it. But I think we'll be able to manage the class. And so it's always very important that you identify the requirements, and they are clearly stated out from the beginning. I think I said this earlier on when I spoke about preparing or hiring, right, and identify the requirement from the very beginning. I think I gave a practical, right. We also talked about interview is well done, is where very rightly. Now, an employee, right? That's the process that it has to go through. I said, getting it, you've been able to bring the best talent into the organization. The next thing will be, how do you manage that employee such that the employee doesn't eventually leave the organization? Attend to something on my internet, please. Yeah, so thank you for your patience. So like I was saying, let's now look at employee management and succession planning. You've been able to hire the right person for the job, and they are now part of your organization. It's not just about hiring or getting the right person, and maybe the both of you have been able to agree on what the salary is. Oh, this person's salary fits into our budget, and everything checks out. He understands the job from all indication. His experience, his skills matches exactly what we're looking for. Now, if you don't manage that employee properly or manage that employee well, in a short time they would exit the organization. And I think that's what HR, people management is really all about. Being able to hire the right person, and more importantly, retain that. Let's look at managing employee and then succession planning. Now, when we talk about employee management, what exactly are we talking about? What is employee management really about? I would say it's about motivation, right? Now, but when we say motivation, what are we talking about? So I want somebody to tell me, what's your understanding of motivation, and how do you think it is relevant to every organization? I don't want to call name. I just want somebody to volunteer to help us talk about this. What do you think motivation is? Hello. So who's going to help with that? Hello. Are we together?
Yes, we are together.
All right, fine. So who can volunteer to talk about employee motivation? What do you think motivation is?
Good evening. My name is Daniel.
Good evening, Daniel. Yes, go
I will say that employee motivation is about creating a conducive environment for employee to work, and also providing some incentive that get the employees attractive.
Yes, providing the incentive to make, I think you said providing incentive to make the place attractive, right?
Yes.
So can any other person add to that?
Okay, so my name is Sididi Akwere. The employee incentives could come in several different packages. It could be an award for the best performing employee at the end of the month or end of the week. It could be in form of other kinds of monetary packages that comes aside from their take home, or maybe what's that thing called? HMO or every other normal thing that every employee knows that they are entitled to. It could be in form of vouchers. It could be in form of just sending a birthday message to an employee. These things motivate the employees because they now understand that they're part of the system and they are valued by the company. So it doesn't give them this notion that, oh, nobody cares, can walk away at any time. Now people walk away from companies, they don't resign simply because some of them are really angry with the way they were treated at home. So thank you. That's my submission.
Thank you, Edidion. So see, really, when we talk about motivation, yeah, right, it's about showing care and concern to your employee. So when we say motivation, different things motivate different people. Some people, money motivates them. Some, you show genuine care and concern for them, even without involving money. They get motivated. But that in itself explains to you what motivation is. Motivation is that thing that influences us to do what we are supposed to do, or to do that thing that we are expected to do. When an organization hires you, they hire you to do a particular job for them. And because they pay you money, they expect that you should do that thing and deliver well, right? But human beings are not machines. So it's not enough for you to say, because I have somebody on my payroll, I expect that person to deliver as he or she should. Some form of motivation to, drive them to do that thing that they need to do. It helps to catapult the productivity of an employee. Yes, when you hire someone and you're paying salary, that person would do their job. But sometimes people expect some form of motivation. Some people are self-motivated. They wake up in the morning and they are motivated. Some are not like that. Some again are not even motivated by the salary that you pay them. And if you rely on salary as a form of motivation for an employee, it is. Let us not take away that. Salary is motivation. In fact, that is where it starts from. But like I said, people are different. You have to also learn to identify all the employees that you have, what motivates them. As managers, it is very important that we study our staff. If you are a facility manager in the site, or you are an operations manager who manages the operation of a facility management organization, or any other organization for that matter, you have people that report to you. Your responsibility, or part of your responsibility, is to be able to motivate that people to do what they are supposed to do. There are different ways that you motivate them. Some people will choose to use punishment to motivate employee. Oh, if they don't do this thing, their salary will be deducted. It's a way of you trying to influence them to do what they need to do. But in this case, a forceful way of doing it. And it can be very counterproductive sometimes. So the best way to do it is actually to show genuine care and concern. The moment that people see that you sympathize with them, you show them empathy, you show understanding, as if you know what they are going through, or that you are involved in the process, that tends to want to make them do exactly what they need to do. As managers, they tell you lead by example. Now we're talking about leadership, right? Because leadership breeds motivation. When you have an exceptional leadership style, people tend to want to emulate you and then do what you tell them to do or do what they see you do. So it is important that as leaders or as managers that we know how to get our employees to do what they need to do. We understand them, right? And we don't generalize them, because that's one mistake that most managers make. They put all employee in one form and just assume that, whatever you are doing, whatever approach that you are using to manage them would apply to all of them. It is really not the case. You have to be able to identify each employee and understand what motivates them. Sometimes you might be lucky that multiple of them are driven by the same thing, but it is good that you are able to identify this, put them in their various groups, and you know how to bring out the best in them. So this implies that for you to motivate your employee, you have to show genuine care and concern. You have to understand them, right? Because people don't come to work every day just basically to, come and not do their work. But of course, people go to work some days and some day they don't do anything. They just, they're just there roaming around, forming busy, but in actual sense, they are not doing anything, right? And at the end of the day, when it's time to deliver, it becomes a problem. So it is very good that you understand your employee, right? If you don't do that before today, I think that should be one of the things that you take out from this class. You try to now begin to look at your employees, study them as much as you can, and understand, Michael, what exactly drives this guy? What is that thing that that makes him to be at his best, every day or sometimes? Once you are able to identify that for Michael Okpewolo, it's that easy for you to note that and do for every employee. It helps you bring out the best in them, and that's what makes you, a good leader. Being able to understand your employee very well, right? And of course, motivate them to do what they are supposed to do. So it's important that you show genuine care and concern. That's the major thing that you need to understand here. Showing genuine care and concern. You have to be attentive to their needs and requests. Not when they raise a request, yours is, complain. Even when there's no money to finance it, even when you feel that management will not approve that, there's still a way that you would approach this that would show that you really care about that thing that they need. But it's unfortunate that you cannot provide it, at that time. You follow up with them as per request, not when somebody raises a request, you say, okay, I'll look at it, and then you bounce. You never remember that. You never want to talk about that. It is even good that you come back and follow up and let them know, that you raised so time. This is where we are, right? Give them feedback. Let them see that you have their time, right? Allocate time and money for training them. Training them is very important. Train. It is very important. But we'll talk about training in subsequent slides. So I don't really want to pay too much attention to, training. Successful FM operations have employees who are connected to the mission and mission of the company and see the bigger picture, right? So as managers, when we see the bigger picture, when we understand what the vision of the organization is, it is also easy for us to cascade it down to the very bottom. I have to emphasize on facility managers because that's what we are. And that is the course that we are taking, right? Facility management diploma. We're trying to get a diploma in facility management. So we need to be able to blend this to the field of facility management. As managers, as facility managers, you need to understand what the vision of your organization is. You need to understand what the goals and objective of your organization is, because this is what helps you cascade it down to everybody within the organization. So understand that it is very important that we pay attention to, what the vision is. And in some organizations today, I think they even try to, talk about these things in their meeting, recite it so that it becomes something that everybody is familiar with. So even at your level, whether you are a facility manager at a site, or whether you are heading operations in an organization, or whether you are doing something completely different from facility management, you can take this back, recite it with your colleagues, let it be something that sinks into, everybody's head. Because when we remember this thing, it helps us, align whatever decision we are making with what the goal is. Now, we need to be able to align whatever we do, and while we are motivating employees, be able to pass this to them so that they also key into what the vision is. So it is very important that you show care and concern. Strength finders in an organization to which help employee develop greater self, right? You need to understand what exactly do they want to become, right? Because part of an employee joining an organization is not just for money, it's also to, for personal development, for growth, right? So as supervisors, as managers, your job is not only to tell them to do this and do that. Like I said, they are not machines. They are not there for you to just order around. They are there for you to also figure out, see what will be better for them, what will help them grow, what will take them to the next level. Because people don't, people go to workplaces to also grow and become better at what they do. So you have to provide that opportunity for them, right? So it is important that, again, you show that care, that people that will make people want to do and deliver. So let us take care and concern, genuine care and concern from this part of the lecture, that if you want to motivate, the best way for you to motivate is for you to show genuine care and concern. Look, sometimes we facility managers in facility management company, or even in facility managers in the client section, we are just focused on strategy, and then we forget the people that actually do the job, the cleaners, and those people are the engine that keeps the process going. Sometimes we don't even know them. Do you know how it will be when you come to a site that you usually don't come to, and you call a cleaner by her name or by his name, and you sound such that you've known that person for a very long time? So it's just a way of you letting that person know that, yes, I know that you are here, and I see you, I see the work that you do. So we have to find the habit, find the way of always showing, all this kind of gesture that would become a delight in their heart and would make them happy, because happy employees are productive employees. To be honest, the idea of, employing staff is to be able to engage that staff to achieve the objective of the organization. And if they are not happy, there's no way you can get the best out of them. There's no way they can be very productive. So it is important that, we find way and means to be able to do that without being forceful or creating problem within the system, right? While we are managing employee, right, it is also very important that we consider the fact that an employee can leave at any time. People go into marriages, right, to be husband and wife, and they never predict that marriage will end in a year or two or in 10 years. But unfortunately, marriages end. So you can imagine if marriage that is sacred can end. A relationship between employer and employee can end in the twinkle of an eye. So, but the business must go on. Sometimes we employees, we don't like this. We say, oh, if I die now, the business will continue. Yeah, so the business will continue because the business has to run. The business has to employ people. The business has to feed people. The business has to continue to provide value to its customer. So every manager has to start looking at succession of every employee. Now, when you talk about succession, an employee exiting an organization is one way that you can look at it, but also look at it again. An employee can be promoted, right? Sometimes when an employee leaves an organization, it's a form of promotion. They probably, although not in all cases, they probably have gotten a better job and they move to that. Sometimes that better job is still within the organization, which is what every organization actually desires. You have the opportunity to promote an employee from where they are to the next level. Now, someone has to fill that position. How prepared are you to fill that position? If the person resigned today, how prepared are you to fill that position? is the business going to shut down? Is operations going to shut down? Imagine a production company, a fast-moving goods consumer company, where they produce goods. Their main activity is production. They have a factory where things are being produced, and they have operators operating sophisticated machines. If that employee resigns tomorrow, what is going to happen? Even if you have a reliever, what if the reliever is not available? Because sometimes an employee can fall sick. What is going to happen? How have you planned for succession? It's also part of risk. It is part of risk for every business. And as managers, we have to always pay attention to risk. We have to also always, come up with a plan to manage risk. So that is where succession planning comes in. You have to carry out succession planning and not just, visualizing this and concluding that, oh, it is on top of my head. No, it is not on top of your head. It shouldn't be on top of your head. This should be a conscious exercise that you do and you document it. You look at all of the roles that are available within the organization, all the roles that are available. What is the plan? If this person leaves right now, if this person falls sick, what is going to happen? How is the business going to continue? That is where you start from. Identifying all of them. I mean, this is very easy. You already know that. Identify all of them. Let's assume that as facility managers in a project, you want to do this for your site. What is the role? They are there. You have your technicians. Maybe you have your technical manager. You have your source service manager. You have your technicians. You have your cleaners. You have your security. You have this. You have that. What is the plan? If out of your 3 securities that should be on duty, 2 is not available, and 1 will not be able to take care of the job for that. So all of these are risks that you have to look at and you have to plan. And the way to plan when it comes to human resources, succession planning, you have to make plans for succession. Right? So what are the obstacles of not developing a succession plan? Because as much as we're saying it, people know these things, but yet you go to organizations, they don't have it. They don't have a plan for succession. They don't have something put on ground that they would use or they would implement immediately when things like this come up. Not developing a long-term perspective. Some people don't look at the bigger picture. Some managers don't look at the bigger picture. They are very tactical. What they focus on is a tactical plan. What's going to happen tomorrow? What will happen next tomorrow? How is production going to go tomorrow? Even when they are doing that, they don't consider if the person does not come tomorrow. Even when they do, they just think about, oh, if the person is ill, this person will cover it. They don't look at the long-term part of it. What if these 2 operators, what if my competitor tomorrow poach these 2 operators and take them away? Long-term perspective. Some people don't look at that. And that's one of the obstacles. That's one of the reasons why some organizations, they don't do it. Like me hiring. Sometimes some people hire because the face is fine. And because of that, they get stuck, and they don't look at the bigger picture anymore. Preconditions and prejudice. Low tolerance for risk. Some people don't even consider, some people don't look at risk in their business. So it is important that we look at all of these obstacles, right? Because of time, I don't have to start, talking about what is on your material. I mean, you can always read them. I think it's better we talk about the real facts, why we are taking this class. So it is very important that all of these obstacles, that we put them behind us. The first step to putting them behind us is to actually have the consciousness that we need to do this. The moment that consciousness is there, it helps us take those obstacles away. And look, like I said, doing it is not just imaginary. It has to be conscious. You have to have an output from that exercise. And that output is a succession plan, a document that you can refer to anytime that you want to implement. So succession planning is not something that you take lightly, because businesses have shut down, businesses have lost money just because they did not pay attention to, succession. So take this away from, this section of the class, that as managers, it is our duty to ensure business continuity. And one of the things that can, one of the things that can make a business shut down is when an employee for a very vital role, very critical role, is not available. I'll give you an example again. Using the facility management example. Sometimes facility management company, they inherit, they get a project and then they inherit employees. Maybe because those employees, they have historical knowledge and data of the building. Maybe it's an old building that was built by a contractor, and when the contractor left, they gave some employees to stay back in terms of management or maintenance of the building. And when facility managers come over time, they are meant to absorb those employees to become theirs. Sometimes there's a mismatch with expectations on both sides. The employee doesn't like the system, maybe because when it was this way, it was very free, he could do anything. But probably because of that, the clients, they are not thinking that, let's get FM company to manage all of this nonsense. They bring an FM company in who absorb those people as their staff, and now there's a mismatch. And sometimes the FM company is caught between letting the person go or not letting the person go, and then they realize that this person has all of the data about this building. How do we do about that? Right? So these are also some of the things that come to play. And if an organization is conscious about succession planning, from the very beginning that they bring these people in, they start to think of the exit of that employee. Look, there's something that you always have to keep in your mind. Some of us might not like to hear it, especially those of us that are just starting off. When an employee coming, from the moment they come in, you start to think of their exit. You don't want them to leave. You are doing the best to make sure they don't leave. You would continue to do the best to make sure they don't leave. But eventually, if they leave, how will the business continue such that their exiting will not affect operation? So that's how you think of it, and then you start to plan for succession. So it is important that we look at succession. Now, why we are talking about succession, right? Sometimes some things make employees leave. You also have to consider, employees not leaving. Remember that we started from motivation. The idea is to make sure that employees don't leave. So you consider all those things that will keep the best talent for you, right? And there's so many things that will make them stay. I already said motivation is very important. Motivate them. Use every opportunity you have as managers to motivate your employees. Manager at the top level, at the middle level, this should be our playbook. Every opportunity you have, you use that to motivate them. Whether it is at the point where you have to appraise them, you use that to motivate them. Whether it is at the point where you have to discipline them, you use that to motivate them, because there are different ways that you can discipline. Some people would prefer their disciplinary action to be punitive, but it doesn't really have to be that. But when we talk about performance, I think we will drive more points in that area. But let's go to module 3 and look at linking organizational value to employee development. While we've talked about hiring the right employee, and we also went further to look at managing that right talent to be sure that they don't leave, to keep the best talent, right? So, but we need to be able to link the values of the organization to the employee development. Some organizations don't even have a plan for developing their employee. They just bring in staff and they expect them to be there. Some expect them to get tired and leave. Every organization needs to have a structure on how you intend to see your employee grow. You don't want to have an employee who is in the same place for 10 years. I mean, some employee would be there if you give them, if you're increasing their money, they would like it. But some might not even, if you like, increase their money. So long they are where they are, they will not like it. They just want to, move to the next level and see their career trajectory, right? So it is very important that organizations have a plan on how they intend to develop their employees. So you need to now have a development plan, an employee development plan. Make a plan, develop a plan that is documented. And part of that plan should be, how they would grow, even in terms of position. So if an employee, let's assume you have cluster managers. Let's use an FM company where you have the CEO or the MD, then you go further, you have the heads of departments, heads of finance, heads of operation, heads of, or head of, whatever department are there, and below that you have people that reports directly to the head. So you can have the cluster managers, right, for different clusters, or regional managers, however you choose to call them. You then have the facility managers. You can go further to have facility supervisors. So it is very important that we clearly spell out all of this cadre that they would see and grow. I'm saying all this because some of us here, are entrepreneurs. Some of us here are we own facility management company. Some of us here may not now, but eventually would. And I'm saying that when you choose to do this, plan all of this from the very beginning so that it becomes part of what your organization holds there, right? Because everything that you do, your employee development plan should align, right, with your organizational goal. So it should be part of your organizational goal. So it is very important that you pay attention to that. You understand what the employee wants to achieve, where they want to get to. And that should even start from the beginning. Look, when you're preparing to hire, at the point where you are preparing to hire an employee, it is good that while you are spelling out those requirements that I stated at the beginning of this class, that you identify what the goal of your organization is, or rather, what the value, the goal, the need, right? I have already talked about the need from the beginning. At this point, you look at the value. What is the value that your organization holds there? All this should be built in the requirement for the staff that you want to hire, because you want to be able to also align the person that you're hiring to the value of the organization, because this helps you streamline managing that employee, because from the very beginning they fit into the organization, both in their technical skill, both in their value, both in their attitude. You look, today people when they hire, most time people just focus on the technical skill. It's not just about that. You have to look at their values. Does it align with your organization? You have to look at their attitude, right? Their attitude to work, attitude to people, you just have to be able to look at their perspective about things, right? So that's why here, when we want to hire, in most hiring places, most organizations, they just put out a post, get people, interview, talk about the job, and they pick. No, in some organizations, especially abroad, they would do certain kind of tests. They would even do personality tests for you. They send you a link. Before they even bring you for a proper interview, they would have sent you a link to try to assess your personality. Understand if your personality fits into the kind of role that you'll be happy. You cannot hire somebody that is angry, always angry, easily get angry, to come and be doing customer service when people will call you for all the wahala that they have, even the ones that does not concern your organization. They'll pour it out on you. At that point, that person could overreact and it become a sin. So it is very important that you look at the entirety of that, not just the technical skill, but you also look at the values and it aligns with the organization, and you build that into the requirements, right? Build that into the performance that you expect, the KPI, and that's how you manage that employee. And then from there, you have a tree on how that employee will grow, because that is very important. And that's where most time people make mistake. They don't, I mean, most organizations, they make mistake. They don't look at the growth of the employee. They don't set out to actually define clearly what the growth trajectory will be. So some people get into an organization with so much expectation, especially when they've been hearing so much about the organization from outside. And then they come inside, they realize that it is just like every other organization where you come in, get stuck, do your best. When you get tired, you resign and you leave. And I think that we players in the facility management industry, we need to start changing this. We need to start setting the right path. We need to start coming up with, plans, with structures that people would come in and see and be attracted to, and they will be happy to remain, right, in that organization. Now, when we look at values, right, basically what I have said is that whatever role you are filling, right, you need to be able to link the value of the organization to that role, where that person also understand what the value is, and that person's value can blend with the value of the organization. And when we talk about values, right, what exactly are those things? We're looking at trust, teamwork. I think these are really, really straightforward, things, because today you even go to organizations' websites, especially when we have an interview, we've been scheduled for an interview, we want to go and prepare for the interview, we'll go to the company's website, and then you start seeing, values. Virtually all organizations that have website now, if you go there, you will see what their values are, even though some of them, they don't really even care about, those values. They just put it there for putting sake, right? So it is important that we that have decided to have those values, we understand what these values are, and it actually adds value to the organization, not just because of doing sake, we're just putting it there. It aligns with what we are doing, and we want every employee to be, aligned to it. So when an employee is, aligned to the organization, you hire, you bring in, you try to retain. How do you then ensure that that employee is performing? Because everything that we talked about, remember, when I started this class, I mentioned that human resource management is really about, ensuring that the employee of using the employee of the organization as a resource to achieve the overall goal of the organization, right? Now, how do you ensure that this is done? How do you ensure that, they are doing well, they are productive? And recall that when I talked about hiring, right, I said you have to put the requirement in place from the very beginning. The moment you decide to hire, those are the first thing that you do. And part of that is also to highlight what the KPIs are. KPIs mean key performance indicators, and those are the things that you use to track performance. In organizations today, what we mostly use is called balance scorecard, right? So they use balance scorecard to assess performance. But when we are talking about performance management in its own chapter, I think we would look at the different method. But let's just look at the cycles of performance management. You set expectation. You have to set expectation. Very important. And that's what I just talked about, which is from the beginning. Before you even bring in an employee, it is very important that you would have identified what the KPIs are, what you expect the employee to deliver. As a matter of fact, it should be part of the content of the job description that you are giving to them to sign. And that's what most organizations do these days. When they hire, they don't even give JD. They don't give employees JD to sign, especially the small businesses, right? But what is right is that you should have clearly state what those JDs are. What those roles are, what the KPI is clearly stated, and you give to them to review so that they understand what you expect from them. I think the reason why this is not the case is because sometimes people don't even know how to put these KPIs together, especially when it comes to employee. People don't even know how to put these KPIs together, so they just try to avoid the work. Now, if you don't know how to do it, I advise people, get a consultant that can do this for you. There are many consultants out there that will draft this for you, and they will draft it very well, easy, understandable, measurable, so that when you develop your balance scorecard, those KPIs are just what you reflect in the balance scorecard. And at the end of the performance cycle. You just come, look at it, you slot the information, the data in, and it gives you the result of the person's performance. So set expectation. You train. After setting expectation, you cannot say, oh, because you hired an experienced person, you expect them to deliver. Yes, you expect them to deliver, but you still have to provide the appropriate training, starting training. You give them training while they are starting. In fact, I would advise you, have an induction system that helps you transition this employee into your system so that they understand how things are done in your system. They understand what each of the department do. Look, have an induction package that is so robust such that every department will take that employee. They talk about what they do. They talk about how they do it. They talk about the process, the procedure of their department. And then they link it to what the person will be doing, the new employee, the job the new employee will be doing, how they expect the employee to relate with that unit, the process the employee should adopt. So when you do all of this, they just come in, they easily blend in, and they understand, what they need to do. By the time they bring the knowledge that they already have, the knowledge and the experience that they have, right, it's just easy for them to, easily blend in and start to shine within the organization. So once you train, you assess performance, right? You have to assess, and there are different ways that organizations do it. Some will do biannual performance appraiser. Some will do quarterly performance appraiser. But however style or however duration or routine that it is for your organization, what is important is that you do it and you do it right. And the goal of that performance appraiser should be very clear so that people don't end up using it for something else. So once you assess, you determine the level of performance, you reward or correct. You reward or correct. We did not say reward or punish, because some organizations also do this. Rather than correct an employee for poor performance, they will rather punish. But again, like I said, we'll get back to all of that. So it is very important that we manage performance. Now, when we talked about setting expectations, we moved quickly and we said you have to train. How do you train? There's on-the-job training. When you bring an employee in, you have to train. And I already talked about induction. Start from there. That helps them blend into the system. Then you now start training on the role that they are playing. This training could be that somebody that is already there is guiding them through how it should be done. It could also be a structured classroom training. I usually advise organizations these days, when I have the opportunity to that, look, trainings shouldn't just be, they will learn while they are doing the job. Because sometimes classroom training helps complement what they will learn, on the field. So have a mixture of both. Sometimes you can bring a consultant to train. Sometimes you can also have, an in-house training. Your HRO unit should have a training plan that detail all this for a year, right? So again, professional development is very important. You should have that ladder that people will grow. It could be that, at the very base level, at the lowest level, you have the FM technicians, above that, you have the FM professionals, you have the FM managers, you have the FM executive. Now, let's tailor this to a real life example for a facility management company. And I think I spoke about that before. I said, in an FM organization, you have an MD, below that, you have the heads of department, you have, below that, you have people, those managers that report to them, maybe cluster managers or senior managers or regional managers. It just depends, but you need to be able to identify that structure, and it should be clearly spelled out on your organizational structure or organizational chart. That gives a guide on how people will transition from one position to the next position. So you have a system where not when a role is vacant, you just go outside and you hire. No, you need to first of all look at the existing pool of talents that you have in-house. Below that position, who are those people that can fit into that position, that position that is vacant? Let's take, for instance, the head of operation role is vacant. Maybe the person occupying that position has left the country. Now, you have to fill that role. And you have cluster managers or you have regional managers. They already know this job. They've been working with the head of operations. In fact, what they do is operations, just the same thing as the head of operations, right? The only difference is that they do this at a regional level, while the head of operation does this at a national level. You can rather pick from the regional managers that you have, promote them to the role of a head of operation. It makes you see that you've motivated a lot of people. People at that point start to see a future in the organization. Oh, if this person can move from this position to the next one, maybe there will be room for us that are here to also go. Even technician, show examples. Try, look, the moment every manager know how their employee are, and they have a sort of a bespoke arrangement or understanding of their employee. You know which technician can move from being a technician to a technical manager. You will just be able to identify that. And once you see that potential, you now start to encourage them. You start to, arrange training for them, because you are also advising the HRO team on the kind of training to give the employee that are your subordinates. So you start preparing them for a role, for the next role. That is also succession planning, and that's what succession planning is really about. And in cases like that, when that person goes for leave, it also helps you to try to start testing the capability of those employees that you are seeing as potential for those roles. So this is just a way that you are motivating them, right? While at the same time, you're creating a structure and system that is beneficial to people. It will drive productivity, and you will see how your wealth or the shareholder wealth of your organization will just continue to maximize. So it is important that we have this structure within our organization. Now let's look at performance management. Now, before I talk about performance management, do we have any questions so far? Hello? Any questions so far, please? So should I assume that we are all taking the class, feeling it, and we're understanding as we roll?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you. So let's look at performance management, employee performance. I spoke briefly about that before, but let's look at it in detail. Remember, we talked about this cycle, what the cycle of employee performance really is, or what the cycle of performance management, how it happens, or where it starts, and where it comes to the end and then begin to go again. And I said that when you hire, from that very beginning, you're already setting expectations for that employee, and that it should be documented and clearly spelled out in the KPI for that employee. Those are the expectations. And then I went for that to say, look, you train, and your training should be elaborate. You should start with inducting that employee to the system so that they get exposed to what the process is, what the procedure is, what the structure is, how things are done, how everybody expect them to relate with them, so that they don't get confused why they are there, right? Because everybody is busy with their job. So if you give them a good footing, they can navigate on their own. Then I also said training shouldn't be just about induction. You should also have tailored, specific training that meets their need. You cannot say, oh, because you hired an experienced person, that's it. That's what most of the organizations do anyway, but it shouldn't be so. You should have training. If you have HR team in your organization, this should be what they do. It's not just for them to wait month end, they prepare payroll and pay salary. No, that is the least of their role. Their role is to make sure employee continue to grow, employee continue to develop, and that the best talent are retained. So, and retaining best talent is not just about salary. There's much more to be done, because these days people are eager for knowledge. People want to learn. People want to grow. So the opportunity should be provided where they work. So training is very critical. Then you do performance management. And like I already stated, right, when it comes to performance management, it should be well structured. It should be clear. The objective should be very clear. That's where sometimes we have issues, people turn performance management to witch hunting, right? So it should be clear, and when it is done, whatever the performance is, you reward, right? But don't punish for poor performance, rather you correct. And correcting could even be more training, right? Or mentorship. You can decide to, assign that staff to somebody who would mentor that employee, explain, sort of just somebody they can confide in, learn from, and get better at what they do. So it's very important that whatever performance management that we have in our system, or performance appraiser that we have in our system, that we ensure that it is structured and very understandable, and people know what is expected of them. But again, performance appraiser can either be formal or informal. The ones that happen routinely within an organization, as in happens as a schedule or at scheduled interval, those ones are formal because they are documented. People come, sit together, have conversations. Those are formal performance appraisal. Now, there are also informal that just can happen anytime. That just continues. As a supervisor, you go to a site, you see the way an employee is doing their work. It gets you impressed, and then on the spot, you appraise them. You tell them, oh, this work that you've done is very good. I'm impressed. Well done, well done. Sometimes a simple well done can be an appraisal, and it can also be a form of motivation for the employee. It shows them that you see what they are doing, and that the work is being acknowledged. So it could be very informal, and when informal appraisal is usually very continuous, it just keep happening. And I always say that people should leverage those opportunities when you informally appraise people, to also motivate them. It could even be in your meetings, right? While you're having meeting of the previous day work, right? You end up telling the employee that, oh, look, I spoke with the client, and they were very happy with that job that you guys did. Well done, well done, well done, well done. In fact, because of the work that you guys have done, I've been able to convince management to give us something for lunch. It's a huge form of motivation. You've done two things at the same time. You've appraised them positively, and you've also motivated them in the same way. So it is very important that we identify all of this consciously and subconsciously, and we leverage on all of this opportunity to be able to drive productivity within our team, right? So what are the benefits of performance appraisal? When you do performance appraisal, what do you really get from it, right? It keeps employees motivated, changes behavior more effectively. Of course, when people know that they are doing well and that they are being seen, it also helps them want to do more. I'm telling you, I'll tell you something. A very long time ago, I think around 1920, or between 1920 and 1930, they carried out a research. Researchers carried out a study in a factory. It's called Houghton Factory. So they wanted to see what exactly drives productivity in that factory. And what they did was because they were thinking that maybe it's the physical environment that was really driving motivation, or that would drive motivation. So they wanted to look at the physical characteristics of the factory. So they were looking at lighting, they were looking at noise, they were looking at this, all of that. How are these things influencing motivation? Maybe, or influencing performance and productivity? How were these things motivating employee more productive? So that if those things are, they cannot find a way to improve on those things and continue to improve productivity. But guess what? By the time they began the research, the studies, and kept going, they realized that in the process of doing that, productivity increased. Now, it was not because of lighting has changed, or this has changed, or that has changed. It was because employees realized that they were being monitored, that their activities was being observed, that they started doing more. Do you get my point? So that a study that was meant to understand how the physical environment influence productivity, because over time it has been established that yes, physical environment increases productivity. That's why most companies spend a lot of money on maintaining their facility, improving their facility, bringing the best. Like you go to some workplace, you are impressed with what you see. That's why they do that, because those things influence productivity. Those things improve productivity. But it's not just those things that improve productivity. The fact that they are being observed also, they realize from that study that, oh, it also increases productivity. So when people notice that they are being appraised, because that was just a study for a period of time. That was why they observed that. Performance appraiser is sort of a way that employees know that they are being monitored. So performance appraiser is very important and it has to be done. Talking about the benefit, I'm basically telling you that when people know that they are being appraised, that alone in itself drives them to want to be good or want to be the best at what they do. So it is very important that we have a system of appraising performance, within our organization. And, some organizations don't really pay attention to this, right? But again, like I've mentioned, we came for training. We have to take something home. You can't come and do this training and you go back to your workplace and continue your work the same way you were doing it before. It will be a waste of money for you. So when you leave this training, when you're done with this training, there are so many things that you now have to start implementing in your workplace. Even though you are not the one that would implement, start suggesting them, start hammering on them, and start requesting that your organization start doing these things, right? Now, even though many organizations appraise performance, yet they still perform poorly. Why is that? Why? Most times they don't even do the appraisal well. The goal of the appraiser is different. Even when the goal is clear, sometimes some people turn it to something else. But let's look at some of those things apart from not doing it rightly. Conflict and emotions, right? Which make them not to do it well. Rather than focus on using that to improve on the performance of an employee, some will use it to witch hunt employee just because you have issue with that person, just because you are angry with that person, just because you don't like that employee, because you just want to see the employee fail. You want to, even when they are doing well, even when there's some level of good performance within the record, you want to throw it down the box and say, oh, they don't know anything. Some supervisors do this. And sometimes some subordinates too, because they feel that the supervisor don't like me, they just want to, conclude that whatever, no matter what I do, he will never see the good in me. So this conflict and emotions tend to make, organizations still perform poorly. Because, when we say organization perform poorly, it is the employees that perform poorly. When employees perform poorly, it translates to an organization's performing poorly. So it is very important that, we put all of this in mind. Connection with compensation, right? Performance appraisal sometimes is, connected to compensation. If you do not set the priorities right, it could actually be conflicting and it could be counterproductive. Yes, it is good to actually link performance to compensation. I would always suggest that, not the base. Rather than link it directly, you can say that if you do well, you get an extra. So if you're setting a payment structure, you set a payment structure that, you don't have to worry yourself about reducing because the employee did not perform excellently well as you want that employee to do. So that whatever extra that, whatever extra you give is now to show them that, performing well has its benefits, its financial benefit, as well as other benefits within the organization. So it's very important that, all these are rightly put together in your performance appraiser plan, right? So effective performance appraisal system, how? What are those things that you, because I've talked a lot about doing it right. Now, the point here is, how do you do it right? Positive and constructive focus. It should be very clear. In fact, the goal should be clear. this is what it is. This is what our appraisal process focuses on, not the other way around where, people tend to come and turn it to another thing. Progress towards long-term goal. You should start to look at the long-term goal of the organization, of the employee, while you are appraising. So if you identify gaps in the employee, you have a plan to bridge those gaps. Training, mentorship, and all of that to be able to bridge that gap. Valid and specific performance indicator. Another thing, some people will set KPI that we know are unrealistic. That is another. So no matter how the employee do, it is just for them to kill themselves. So at that point, already from the very beginning, you have finished the process. The employee is not even interested in performance appraisal. He doesn't care whether he perform or not, because he has seen that, it's not an achievable. But it's also not good that as employee, we just conclude that it's not achievable. Again, this should be a conversation that is very clear and people understand that these things, can be done. Effective appraisal method, pick the right appraisal method, training of evaluators, the supervisors that would evaluate or the managers that will evaluate, train them. HR department should train them. Let them understand what they'll be doing. Document, right? There are different appraisal methods. There's a 360-degree feedback, there's a category rating, comparative. There's so many, right? 360-degree, where you just you go around it, and then there's category rating. You put all what you are looking at, put them into different categories, and then you now use that to check what their performance as per those categories are. Comparative, where you compare different performance together and use that to check what the performance. So I don't want to go into details in all of it because of time, but it's also good that you take your time to research all of these methods and get to understand them, even more, right? Conducting performance appraisal. How? Prepare, discuss, document. So you have the preparation stage where the appraiser, the person that is appraising, note everything that they are looking out for. The appraisee, on the other hand, also prepare and note what it is. Then the HR department sends out documents, right? Sent to the employee or the appraisee who would appraise themselves, right? And then sent to the appraiser, which is the line manager, who also appraise to see if both of the appraisers are, if it tally. And then after that, they both come together, have a conversation, discuss. The line manager tells the employee, oh, okay, I don't agree with you here, and this is why I think so. I think you can do better here. I think you can do better here. I think you are lacking in this area. And that document also have a space where the employee, would talk about where they want to get to, the kind of training that they think they will need, where they need to improve on themselves. And then the supervisor also does the same thing. And all these are documented, and that document is now sent to HR, which they use to plan for improvement of that employee. So if you don't have that, again, like I said, go back, have a system such as this, and ensure that it is implemented within your organization. Now, utilizing diversity in FM, right? In every workplace today, we have different kind of people, and it could be an advantage if you manage it properly well. Now, when we talk about diversity, we're looking at different kind of people within the workplace. Diversity could be in form of sex, male and female. It could also be in terms of age group, right? Because you go to workplace, you see Gen Z, you see millennial, you see all of that. It could even be in terms of race or ethnic group. You can see Yoruba, you can see Hausas, and these people are from different background, different culture. They have different value. The Yorubas have, they believe in respect, right? The Hausas have their own, the Igbos have their own, the Edos have their own, the Shekiris have their own, the Calabarese have their own, the Cross Riverians have their own. So these are different kind of people. They all grew up even though we are all Nigerians, we have different cultural value. And when we are together in the workplace, we bring all of this together. I mean, these things these things sort of influence the way we talk. It influences the way we see things. It influences our perception of things, right? So sometimes you would have divergent opinions, right? Because of this. Now, if you don't manage this well, it could become a problem within an organization, right? So you have to manage diversity well. Now, a well-managed diverse team would lead to creativity. You have job satisfaction. People are satisfied with the job that they do, high productivity. But when you have a poorly managed diverse team, you have high turnover. People want to leave, because there's a mismatch in culture. This one don't respect the other one's culture. This one don't respect. So that's what happens. And what can help you achieve or have a well-managed diverse team? Train. You always have to train. And when we talk about training in this case, it's about identifying or talking about this cross-cultural team. Let them know that people have different culture and that there should be respect for every culture, right? So this is one way that you can manage that. It has to be balanced as well, right? Even a diverse team is actually an advantage, to be very honest, because it draws from the best of different area, and they come up with a feel of all of those, touch from those cultures, and it helps you blend what that Nigerian component really is. And then communication, good communication, different value, and and then conflict handling. How do you handle conflict? How is cultural issues handled within the organization? So you have to have a process for that. In fact, you should have a diversity policy, right? So basically, these are contemporary issues in workplace. A couple of years back, they were not issued. We didn't really see them as issue. But today, that the world is greater. So we have multinationals now where you have team employees from different parts of the world. So you have cross-cultural people within the team. You want to be able to handle diversity very well. Otherwise, you create problem within the system, because sometimes you have a meeting of people from different continents, people from about 10 or 15 countries having same meeting on the same project to achieve the same goal. So if you don't have a diversity policy that help you manage this diversity, you create, a system where people are misunderstood, people are easily angered because of miscommunication. So this should be well planned and, handled and managed. So it is very important. What are the strategies to manage diversity? You align policies and practice with diversity. Like I said, you have a diversity policy that spell out how people should relate in terms of communication, how people should relate in terms of respect, how people should relate in terms of perception of, cultural differences, right? So it's important that those are done. Building balanced team, have a balanced team, people from different areas. It's actually, like I said, diversity is an advantage if you manage it very well. Build cohesion within the team. Support diversity through training. Very important. Support diversity through training, and then recruit for diversity. When we say building cohesion, how? Right? Cohesive facility management or cohesive team. Shared goal and common value. Let everybody understand that, look, we are all heading towards the same goal. The reason why we are here is to achieve the same thing, and the only way we can achieve it is to form a common force, right? The moment you are able to drive this down, it is now easy for you to have a cohesive team. And how do you even do that? It takes us back to the beginning of the class. Requirements. When you are hiring, the organization already has its value. So let those values reflect diversity, right? Let it reflect diversity. That is clear for people to understand. So when you are setting a requirement, you know what you are looking for. It also even help you in the questions that you are asking to assess a potential employee. So it's very important that these are considered in your recruitment process. So let's look at the last module, sustaining FM practice. How do we sustain FM practice? If you look at the sequence at which we have take the modules or the topic, you see that we've moved from like the beginning and we just kept going on how to continue to keep these people that we've been able to hire, right? Keep them in terms of motivation, keep them in terms of career development, keep them in terms of performance appraisal and management, keep them in terms of diversity. I mean, that's contemporary issue and they have to be addressed and well managed. Now, let's even look at sustaining all of these things that we've done. How do you, this is where you really, start to look at retaining that employee. How do you sustain the practice? How do you sustain all this process? How do you sustain the employee that you have hired to be on the long run for, the organization? You align FM practice, organization strategic plan, right? What are those plans? You have to align it, right? Historical factors that may affect occupant and employee, organizational resources, compliance issues, specific stakeholder need, cultural factors that may shape, the processes. You have to be able to align all those practices to higher organizational value. And I think we have emphasized on this, aligning the value, the goal, the objective, the vision of the organization is very critical. The people that you hire have to align to this. Your processes have to align to this. Your diversity has to be embedded in that. Everything within the organization, should be embedded in that. Now, you also have to pay attention to the need of the employee. Remember, we talked about career development. Now, when we talk about career development or we talk about motivation, we're still looking at how do we keep these people within the organization, this talent that we've taken so much time to hire, how do we retain them, right? So this takes us to Maslow's hierarchy of need, because this is one way that you can motivate people. I said before that when you are motivating employee or when you want to motivate employee or as managers, that we should learn to understand each employee, because what motivates A might not motivate B. And this is what Maslow actually talks about, that people have different needs. But he said there are different stages of need, which is what he called hierarchy of need, the need for comfort. And there are different stages, 5 stages. And people are in those stages differently. I might be in stage 1, another person might be in stage 3. That you need to identify these stages where an employee, each employee is in those stages, and it helps you also motivate employee. And it's that stage psychological, right? And this is basically about just shelter and food. For a young Nigerian who just finished NYSC, what they are looking at is, oh, let me go to Lagos and get a job, and start a life, right? At that point, they are thinking of how to get an accommodation or how to eat when they start to reside wherever they choose to reside. So if you know that this person, this is what their need is, it is easy for you to tailor whatever you want to use to motivate that person to that. For that kind of person, salary, once you hire and you give that person even basic salary, they are happy, they will jump on that job and they will want to give their best, right? And then he said beyond that, the next stage, which is safety and security. And he said once they are able to get accommodation, food, they are fine, they can transport to work, they start to thinking of security. They start thinking of security, start thinking of safety. How secure is my job? Is this my job secure? Am I safe where I live? Am I safe in this country? They just start looking at those things. If you are also able to identify that, it's easy for you to motivate them the right way. He said from that stage, they move to the next one, which is social belonging. This is where they start to, think of how to either form a belong or actually belong. At that point, they can come out and say, oh, I belong to this class of people. So Maslow is saying, identify this stage. Identify where your employee is on this stage and be able to motivate them. Then he said the next one, which is esteem. This is where where some of the elite are, some of the rich people are. I mean, you cannot want to motivate your head of operation and you are thinking of psychological need to motivate your head of operation, or safety and security to motivate your head of operation. He has passed that level. Some of them even think that which nonsense job security. If you are not even careful, I will leave this job and set up my own company. So that kind of person, if you want to retain that person, there's a different thing that you have to think entirely to be able to. Maybe you want to start thinking of, well, maybe profit sharing is what will motivate those kind of people, or maybe some form of shares, just depending on what the organization is. Or let's even look at an MD. Let's look at a publicly listed company and they have an MD that is hired. You cannot be thinking of, social belonging for that MD. He or she probably would have passed that level, right? So it's the same thing when you get to esteem, where, that person is solid, they're fine, they're comfortable, they have everything that they need. They have everything that they need. So if you have an employee, maybe like an MD, that is in that stage, and the MD is performing excellently well, like we talk about all these big companies now, MTN, and Dangote, all of that, the MD of Dangote, MD of MTN, MD of Access Bank, I mean those companies, or MD of UBA, those companies that the MDs are not the owner, they are hired to do the job. Those kind of people, you won't be thinking of social belonging. What's their business with social belonging? They've passed that level. And then you now talk about self-actualization. Somebody that have achieved so much that achievement is oozing everywhere. What can you give to Dangote? Or what can you give to Tony Elumelu? Those are the people that they have self-actualized everything. They are givers. They have so much investment everywhere that there's nothing you can give to them. So you have to be able to identify all of these need stages to be able to motivate your employee. Now, making facility change, right, where people work is also very critical. It's also a very important way to actually keep an employee where they work. If it's not comfortable, they'll probably just leave. The reason why the Hawthorne research was done many years ago was because they know that the facility condition actually drives productivity positively and negatively. They just wanted to be able to identify which one should we focus on. In the process, they identified other things, but it goes to tell you that it is very important that we pay attention to where people work. Give them the best environment to work. If you are making changes, there are certain things that you should note. Maybe you want to do renovation or you want to do whatever it is. Certain things to do and certain things not to do, right? Avoid ignoring their reactions. People will react when you try to make change, whether to the facility or whether to the process, they will react. Even in your client's place, occupants like a residential estate, if you want to make a change, a serious change, they will, react. So don't ignore those reactions. You have to make sure you attend to it. So there are certain things that you shouldn't avoid, and then there are certain things that you should clearly just, avoid. So it's important that you are able to draw those lines and, be able to make those changes. However, let's even look at the environment. What are those critical things that we should look at in the environment that can help you drive productivity? And those things are the indoor environmental quality. What are those variables within indoor environmental quality? We look at temperature, we look at air quality, we look at lighting, we look at noise, and then we look at cleanliness. Now, for temperature, we all know that, right, the air in our space have a lot to do with even our heads. If the air quality is not good, people would even feel as if they want to faint and they won't be able to work. People might just end up going home. They would decide that, I cannot work today. I feel like I want to faint, right? And then, of course, HR will say, go home. When that happens, the company have lost money. Calculate the salary of that person for that day. Because when they get home, they might not do anything. If you send email, they might not even respond to it. So that day, that money paid is wasted. And you cannot say you will not pay that person. So paying attention to the indoor air is very important. And when we talk about indoor air, what are those things that can influence it, right? The equipment that are used in the space, the furniture, the people, the number of people that are there, and then the external environment, the quality of the external environment. I mean, if there's sun outside, it could influence the temperature inside. If the wall is block or glass, that could also influence the air quality. So you have to plan the space very well such that the air is of good quality, right? So it means that you have to do space planning, consider the size of AC based on the environmental condition, or the environmental condition, like I already said, the component of features within the internal space, maybe the furniture, the equipment, and then the number of people that are also going to be using that space. Put all of that into consideration. I'm sure they would have taken you guys on HVAC. They would have explained all of this in details, how you can do a need analysis for AC and design AC for every space, right? So that's for air quality. And then we look at lighting. Lighting, sometimes, people desire different lighting, but there are, different levels of light that you would definitely require for different space. In an office space, of course, you need adequate lighting, right? Where people can visibly see where and not go and trip or fall. But aside that, people work with computer, right? The light also has to align with the lighting from the system so that you don't put their eyes at risk. However, because your computers can be adjusted to the environmental light level, so it's also easy for that, to be managed. You can also incorporate natural lighting. So you have, adequate windows where sometimes people can, raise the window blinds to, let natural light come in, just depending on the space, whether it's personal office space or whether it's, a general or a central or workspace. Right? So let's look at noise. Now, on the area of noise, right, there are different noise level. We all know noise is measured in decibel, just the same way light is measured in lumen. Now, for noise, it is measured in decibel. And if you expose somebody for a noise level of 85 decibel for an hour, that person could be exposed to a hearing problem. But again, the noise level and the exposure duration, it as it changes, right? The noise level also, as the noise level changes, the hours that you can get exposed to become a risk also changes. So we just need to understand that so that we are able to set priorities right. But I advise you, office space are meant to be quiet, right? Even in residential areas, they are meant to be quiet. So you just have to be able to identify the use of your facility and the level of noise that should be there so that you can keep it to that level. So if you have a factory, it is naturally, it is believed that factories are meant to have high noise, which is why you have PPEs to protect, people from hearing problems. So you have to identify the use of the facility and provide the right tool to ensure that people are safe. Otherwise, they will consider this thing, and then they consider this risk and eventually leave your workplace, resign and leave. And this is what we're trying to avoid. We want to make sure that the best talent that we've hired, we have them, kept and retained in the system. Now we look at cleanliness. The environment has to be clean, and there are different levels to cleaning. You probably would have also taken your class on cleanliness, and they would have different levels of cleaning. And then you have the level 1, which is orderly spotlessness. You have the level 2, which is ordinary tidiness. Level 3, which is casual inattentiveness. Level 4, moderate digidence. Level 5, unkept neglect. We don't even want to be in level 3, right? So I always tell participants in this class that as facility managers, we should be at the top of cleaning, because this is what people see very quickly. When they enter into a space, they see, oh, there's cobweb. That is very irritating. You don't want people to see that there's dust here. They put their hand on top of the table and they defeat dust. The perception just changes completely. So we have to ensure that we maintain that level 1 of cleaning, so that the employees that you have retained, right, the employees that you hire, they are retained for the long run. Now, even though it's HRO's responsibility to ensure that employees remain, you can also imagine the role that facility managers get to play in this. It is now our job to ensure that this space is well kept enough for people to thrive and be productive. So we have to ensure that when it comes to cleaning, that it remains on level 1, right? So stress is also another issue. We need to identify stress and then be able to manage stress. But in fact, today people collapse and they die immediately. We don't want that in our workplace. And most time it is because they are stressed. So let's identify stress and be able to manage this. And look, stress is not just about money. Sometimes I agree stress is, is also caused by money, especially now that the economy is somehow, the salary is not even enough. So every day is a lot of thought and how to balance those bills. So you are naturally stressed these days. But beyond that, even the job itself can be a problem, the job itself. Because when you have a situation where you have conflicting role, somebody don't even understand what they are supposed to do, or there's a new process, or there's a new software that is being brought in, they don't know how to use it. This creates a lot of stress that even is bigger than the money stress that we always talk about. So it is very important that we identify what those causes of stress are, so that we are able to manage them. Economic changes can cause it, even change within the system can cause it. New technology, that's also another thing. Poor alignment of work expectations. You have KPIs that are not achievable, and because they need this job, they don't want to leave the job. So you have a situation where they are stressed, thinking almost want to kill them. So it's very, very important that we identify what these stressors are and then be able to, manage them. So there's also ergonomic sitting position. What kind of chairs do the people use at the workplace? Some organizations don't really look at it. They just buy a chair and go and keep there. They will use it. They don't have a choice. You need to pay attention to the kind, because ergonomics is a serious issue. Today, people are not able to sleep in their house because they have what we call musculoskeletal disorder. Their joints are paining them, their back are hurting them, their waist is, they cannot even do anything at home. So it is important that you give them a comfortable place, because one day you will wake up, that person will not come to work. They will be giving you excuses every day, and you will be wondering, are you the only person in this place? You are always giving excuses. No, it might probably be because of the chair that they are sitting at the workplace. So sometimes, as facility managers, evaluate the chairs that you have in the workplace. How do they look like? Are they still okay? Some of them have even bent. The person will fall one day and get injured. So do this evaluation and re-evaluation routinely, and then be able to identify where those gaps are and ensure that the right and proper tool, the right and proper chair is what is provided. Right chairs that are ergonomic standard, chairs that people can adjust to suit their ergonomic need, to suit their body, such that their waist or their nervous system, their back is standing straight. They don't have to bend it to do any work. We also have to understand what the proper sitting and lifting position is, because that is the best way that you can actually avoid having issues such as back pain, issues such as joint pain, and all of that. Now, FM strategies, you look at design for workplace effectiveness. How do you do that? Accommodating different purposes. So it's very important that whatever we are doing, when we are designing the workplace, we design it for effectiveness. Identify those things that will drive people to be happy, drive people to perform well, drive people to be productive, and design your workplace to be drivers in that area or drivers in those areas. Otherwise, you have a system where people just, get upset when you don't even understand what the issues are, because it's actually because of these minor, simple issues. Now, in concluding this class, right, I will just take us through the module again. We started by talking about hiring the right person for the right job, right? And I stated that to hire right, it starts with identifying the requirement. And the requirement has to be very clear. It has to align with the organizational value, right? It has to align with diversity. It has to align with the technical skill required. It has to align with even attitude. Look at all the way around. This is not exhaustive. Just take your time to identify it so that when you come up with a requirement, it is robust and it is easy for people to actually identify who they are looking for this job. And then plan for succession. Succession planning is vital in assembling an FM team because people can leave at any time. People can fall ill. Sometimes they have information that nobody has. You don't want to be left in the middle of that kind of scenario. So it is important that you plan for succession from the very beginning. When you hire an employee, start looking at the exit strategy, right? Make sure every employee competence are shaped by the organizational values and goal, meaning that you should have a growth pattern that people can see that aligns with the organizational value. And when you already identify those values from the very beginning and align and ensure that who you are hiring aligns with those values and goals, is then easy for you to ensure that competence as they continue to grow within the system is shaped by the value of the organization. Performance appraisal is very important. Appraise performance, and it should be for the benefit of team motivation. When there is poor performance, focus on correction rather than punishment. It doesn't pay to punish an employee for poor performance. You are only setting an example that would demotivate people. Rather, when they perform well, reward them. When they perform poorly, correct them and provide the right training that will set them on the right path, right? There should be a clear-cut path for self-actualization as defined by Maslow's hierarchy of need. Have a career development plan within the organization that spells out how people will move from one step to the other in the organizational cadre. You can have from being a technician to being a technical supervisor, from being a technical supervisor to being a technical manager, from being a technical manager to becoming a lead facility manager, from becoming a lead facility manager to becoming a cluster manager or regional manager. Have this well thought out, structured, and documented within your organization. Let it be part of the SOP or the process and policies for your organization. And finally, the working condition of your place should be, you should pay attention to this and ensure that you continue to improve on it in terms of lighting, in terms of noise level, in terms of the furnitures that they use, in terms of, all that we've talked about. Stress, ergonomic, otherwise you would have a system that creates problems that people don't even speak about. And when you actually even try to shut them down, when they even make attempt to report these issues, you just create a system where people wake up one day and then they leave the organization without even telling you that they are leaving. So I'll end the class here. And at this point, let's take questions. So if you have any question, please ask the question so that we can close the class. I'm sorry that we did extra 25 minutes, but let's just see if we can take one or two questions so that we can end the class. Are there any questions, please? Hello? Yes, go on, Daniel.
All right, thank you very much for this interesting lecture today. My question will be in the employee appraisal. Over some time ago, we normally have a manual appraisal in my office. The way you explain it, the appraisal form will be sent from the HR team, and the management appraise an employee. But over for the recent time, we have an appraisal system that is systematical, that even when a manager appraise an employee, the decision is not taken manually. The system automatically take decision, which even results, some of the decisions were taken were not accepted by the manager. The manager did not even know that his appraisal will lead to some of the sack which one will you say is better, the systematic appraisal or carrying it out manually? Thank you.
Okay, so to respond to your question, right, I need a bit of more clarification. So when you say a systematic appraiser or automatic appraiser, I'm trying to understand, is it that they use a software for appraiser that just automatically makes a decision, or you are saying you are trying to say a formal appraiser and an informal appraiser?
Okay. The is a system that you input the data of the appraiser. The decision is taken by automatically, not individual someone deciding it.
Okay, so again, I think what you're saying is that the organization have a HRO software that they put the data, or you are saying they have a balance scorecard that is an Excel sheet. So they just come and plot the data in. Like, you know, sometimes what they do is to quantify those performers. If you are expected to, maybe attendance is part of your appraiser, right? Because some organizations, they include attendance as appraiser. And in a month or in a quarter, you are expected to come to work by so number of days. Let's assume for a quarter, in a month, you are expected to come 20 days in a month. 5, 10, 20 days in a month, right? And in 3 months, you are expected to come 60 days in a month. Now, when they draw up a balance scorecard, attendance can come and be, maybe they will tell you, they would indicate, they would have put the performance, the scoring, that for each of the performance line, that you have to score not less than 80%. Sometimes they would even put it that from 80%, from 85% up, promotion. From 70% to 85%, no promotion, no demotion. From 60% to this, demotion. From or from 60% down, demotion. From 60% down, the second time, exiting the system. So they've already said that as what the system is for the organization. So when they come and plot the number of days that you came to work, I mean, it's Excel. They've already done all the formula inside. They just come and put the number. If out of 60 days, you ended up coming to work only 40 days or 35 days. By the time they put 35 days there, the Excel already calculates 35 divided by 60 multiplied by 100. It will just give the percentage that you did for that line performance line item. So they do the same thing for, you know, all the line items that they have. Sometimes they put they can have 5 line items for each category in a balance scorecard. So if that is what you are saying, right, it still go back to what is the actual performance. But again, it is very wrong what they did. And I think that's what I've been talking about. They've turned performance appraiser to a system to remove people, to disengage people, which is wrong. Now, look at it. What they have done is that even the people that are there, even the people that scale through that rigorous performance process, they are demotivated. They are not happy, right? So what they will be doing, they will start planning their exits. They will not focus on productivity anymore. They will not, even though they will try to be productive just for the sake of remaining in the organization until they are able to get something else and leave. And those people will even be planning that, these people, I will show them.
when I go come out like this, I not go tell them. I will tell them, say, I will take my leave, carry their system and abandon the work and let them suffer before I return the system. And if it is some that have information that others don't have, they will just, at that point, they are thinking of how to show the organization purpose. So it's counterproductive. Look at you that is bringing it up here now. It's because you're not happy about it. And that tells us that you might even have some plan that you might not want to, let out. So again, it's very obvious. You can see that it's not productive, it's not good. So my conclusion is that it is not a good way to appraise performance. Those are the counterproductive way of appraising performance. And when we talk about, companies performing poorly, I think we talked about it somewhere during the course of this, while we were having this class. I talked about it. I asked the question that, look, even though companies take time to do performance appraisal, why is it that they still perform poorly? This is one of the reasons. Why is it that they still have high turnover of employee? This is one of the reasons, because the goal of that exercise is not to actually improve on your employee. It is to send people away. That's counterproductive. So, obviously, it is not a good way. What you can do is to make your people see reasons. Now that you have come to this training and you understand this, you can go back, have conversation with your HRO people when you can, or with your direct line manager. In fact, I think you should be able to have a conversation with your HRO people if you were the one that appraised those people that were sacked, right? So you can have a conversation with them on why they were sacked and why you think that sacking them wasn't the right action, unless maybe they have performed poorly for too long. You have provided training. You've even gone ahead to provide mentorship to see how these people can improve, yet they are not improving, because sometimes there are people like that. And unfortunately, those people, you would have to let them go so that they don't come and drag the business down and, the business continue to underperform. So that's just the way it is.
Thank you very much. You have nailed it on the cross. Thank you very much, sir.
All right. Are there any other questions, please? Any other question, please?
No other question.
Mr. Lewis, do you have any questions, sir?
No, sir. I'm okay. I'm okay, sir.
All right. Okay. So in that case, I think I would end the class here. So I'd like to apologize again for coming 20 minutes late, and also for the network issue I had at the beginning. And then finally, also to apologize for extending the class for over 30 minutes. I do hope that it was a great class, and that you enjoyed the class and you took the best out of it. So thank you very much, and have a lovely night rest.
Thank you very much, sir.
The association of participants that don't always talk, at least tell me good night now.
Thank you very much, sir. Good night, sir.
Good night, sir. Good night very much, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Good night, sir.
Wait, no lady for this class. I'm not hearing any female voice, so it's only man strong voice that I'm hearing. It seems like the ladies are angry today.
Yes, well.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you for your time. Good night.
Thank you. Good night.